And welcome to episode 12 of And One with EJ podcast here on the Huddle Up Podcast Network, or as we call it here, home, Huddle Up Incorporated. I'm your host, Ernest EJ Christian, coming to you from the palatial Christian Estates here in South Florida. 5 topics, 5 takes, 5 things on my mind as I bring to you every week. Again, Paul has bring this show a little later than usual for the second week in a row. Normally we drop these on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, but it's been I'll get a little inside baseball here real quick. For starters, I'm having some sleep issues as of late. And then I'm actually back now recording full-time podcasting now on all my shows. Normally we do Take 3 Wrestling, my wrestling podcast I do every week. We record on Thursdays and we drop those on Fridays. Late Thursday night, Friday morning. But this week's show, we did it a day earlier because, of course, half the show, shout out to my boys Mike and Joe, they're actually flying to WrestleMania. Actually, Mike's actually on the way there as we speak as I'm recording this, and Joe's going out tomorrow. Funny story there. Not really funny for Mike, of course, and Joe, but the flights got canceled. For this morning, so he had to take another flight. It was a connecting flight to New York and all that. Joe decided to go a day later because he's want to deal with the fly. He hates flying as it is. Long story short, but we had to move the show up a day earlier because of to facilitate that, which is fine because WrestleMania is a couple days away, and obviously the more days the show can sit, that's good anyway. Anyway, let it marinate a couple more a day extra anyway. So, but here to talk basketball, but also. My sleep schedule has also been kind of screwy the last couple of days. Tuesday night, I didn't sleep well. I slept like maybe 3 hours, and then, I would have recorded it last night before I went to record a Take 3 Wrestling podcast, but I was so exhausted after put my kid to sleep, I just took a nap, and then woke up to do the show, and went back to sleep after that. So, but I'm trying to get back into things. I'm relaxing with today, but, we gotta get us in. We gotta get us in because we're only 2 weeks away from the NBA playoffs, and that's the first take of the day. I'm so pumped. I mean, you look at the way things are playing out now, especially the last couple weeks. I was skeptical at first when the NBA did this, when they instituted the play-in situation. But now, this will be the 3rd year I've done it now. I love it, and I love it because it's giving teams, it's raising the floor and giving teams that would probably just pack it in for the year at this point a chance to play for something. By adding an extra 2 spots to get into a little of a play-in tournament. And nothing egregious. That's, you know how it goes. If you have a 7 to 8 season in each conference, you win your first game in the play-in, you're in. If you lose, you have another chance. If you're 9 and 10, if you win, you have another chance to win 2 games. You lose the first game, you're done. And you're seeing this being played out in sports altogether now. It's not just basketball now. Yeah, I know the NBA, you have more teams to make the playoffs than teams are actually, and more than half the teams in the league get in the playoffs. 30 teams, 16 teams get in. But, we've had a lot of people say that the regular season doesn't matter. And that's been the kind of the big thing for the last couple of decades now, that fans complain that teams don't care, teams want to tank, and teams, if you're in the middle of the road and you can't really get a high draft pick, at least having the play-in, it lifts the floor. And to the NBA's credit, they ain't the only ones doing this now. The NFL added an extra wild card spot, a 7th spot in their league. Basically, baseball added another playoff spot, so now you have 6 teams that get into the playoffs per league. 3 wild cards. So you're seeing this practice play out not just in basketball, but also in Major League Baseball and also in the NFL. So I like the play. I love it, and it's add more intrigue. The Lakers, for example. I know my buddy Zach, Degenerate on my podcast, teases that the fact that the play was made for LeBron James. That's all cock of shit, obviously. But the reality is, the Lakers, after having a dismal start to the year, they're on the roll. The playoffs started today. They're in the play-in situation. In fact, they're in the good part of it now, because if they hold the 8th seed right now currently, which we'll get to the setting where we stand in the play with the standings 2 weeks ago, and they win their game against the 7th seed, which will be Minnesota, they're in the playoffs immediately. They get a 7th seed. So the plan's great, and with 2 weeks in the playoffs, I can't wait. Like I said, I always say NBA playoffs is like Christmas time for me. You know what I mean? So I cannot wait. Speaking of playoffs, I have to give them a shout out, man. And I probably should have to show this first, but whatever. The Sacramento Kings, for the first time in 16 years, have clinched a playoff spot. The last time the Kings made the playoffs, my wife and I just started dating. I just met my wife literally a month after that. Okay, that's how long it's been. I've been married almost 17 years. Well, not married 17 years. With her almost 17 years. Married for 12. It's amazing. It's a great story. I've been saying this on this show every so often that the Kings are probably one of my favorite league pass watches of the year. De'Aaron Fox having a rejuvenated year. Sabonis, them boys doing great things out there in Sacramento. So shout out to the Kings for their first playoff berth. And not only it's a playoff berth, they're probably gonna be the 3 seed. They pretty much look like they're gonna be locked into 3. I don't think they'll catch Memphis at 2, but I don't think they'll fall lower in the standings. And I will say, and I know when I get to my next couple topics here, the Kings fans might get a little mad at me when I say this though, but let's just say the disrespect out there. People are saying the teams are clamoring for that 6th spot so they can play the Kings in the first round of playoffs because the Kings are, a young team and, breast milk like Similac kind of thing, and that teams want to play that 6th spot so they can get that. That's for the so-called easy spot in the first round. And I'm gonna tell y'all, look, the Kings' defense is not so great, bottom 5 defense in the league, but their offense is actually historically great. But I'm gonna say right now. Look, I'm not sure I'll put the Kings against, depending on who they play. Depends on who their matchup is and the situations, because there's a lot of situations here in the league with different teams in that 6, 7, 8 spot that if they're healthy, they can make a run for the championship. If they're not healthy, no. The disrespect for the Kings, you have to figure that they're going to take this and run with that. You do know the home court advantage, and especially too, when the Kings were good in the early 2000s, that home court advantage was significant for them. This is a team that made the playoffs the first time in 16 years. You don't think the fans are going to be after this, like the beam? Look out. This Kings team, even if they lose in the first round to, say, Golden State Warriors, if that's what right now they would match up if they start today, they ain't no easy out. They taking you probably 6, 7 games. Letting you know from Jump Street right now. And the disrespect you're seeing out there from the Kings, like I said, I'm rooting for them to win a series, or maybe 2, because I think this is a great story. I think it's been a great year in general, and they're part of it. Mike Brown is, to me, at this point, unanimous Coach of the Year, because even if you had the Kings improve this year, nobody had making the playoffs, much less being a top 3 seed in the Western Conference. I'm just saying, in a conference that still has a lot of top tier teams, even if they have issues, no one had the Kings being this good. All right. My third take. Now I have to go a bit negative here. The most disappointing team for me this season has been the Dallas Mavericks. And before you start saying, well, it's Kyrie's fault, Kyrie Irving did trip, stop that noise. Because Kyrie's playing well. He's doing his job. And I'm not even defending the fact that Kyrie and Luka doesn't fit, because I don't know if it does fit still. But you had to try, they had to try something. They had to see if this could work. I actually think the trade was a good trade because Luka needs a sidekick. But what I've been saying for the last 2 years, Luka needs a sidekick that's not threatening to Luka. Kyrie might be a little threatening to Luka based on his game, because they both do the same thing. They both need the ball to be great. But you still had to see where this went. So, in terms of the Kyrie trade to Dallas, I actually think the trade was a good trade because we had this was the fact that you need to see the experiment and see it works. Dallas had issues long before Kyrie got there. The whole reason this trade even happened was because they needed help. Luka needed help because this team would have stayed intact, considering the fact that the team prior to Kyrie coming there literally went to the Western Conference Finals last season. So let's not go there and start using Kyrie as a punching bag just because we don't like Kyrie Irving, okay? And his stance on things and all that stuff. But Dallas has been disappointing from the word go, even before Kyrie even walked to that building. So let's stop right there with the Kyrie blaming there. This falls on Jason Kidd. This falls on Luka especially. This falls on Mark Cuban. Okay? I don't think Kyrie gets any blame. In fact, when Kyrie plays without Luka, I think they're 3-1 or something like that. With Kyrie and Luka together, I think they're 4-8, something like that. So, but they're still a great offense together. It's just that, well, first off, defensively they're horrible defense. Number one, let's start there. And right now, they are not even in the play-in situation. With 6, 7, 8 games to go in the year, if the playoffs start today, they're not even in the play-in. That's a shock. OKC is right now ahead of them by a game. This is why the play-in's good, because that's a race you want to watch still. So the Mavericks have been most disappointing team of the year for me, honestly, but it's not Kyrie's fault. Number 4, fourth take here. I think, and looking at the Western Conference, I think I'm buying. The more I see this team, I think I'm buying into the idea of the Grizzlies winning the West. They are on a roll, number one, of starters. John Morant just got back for the team after a long suspension. Not long, was it 8 games, whatever, a little more than that. But they've been playing well without John Morant. Ja's back. They're still playing well. The West is wide open. They feel themselves confidence. They've had some experience last year being in the playoffs. There are questions with Denver. There are questions with Phoenix and Kevin Durant staying healthy. There are questions with the Kings being too young. There are questions with the Lakers and staying healthy. There are questions with the Clippers and Paul George when they get back. There are questions across the board in the Western Conference. Kind of feels to me right now the team that has the most going for it, most intact. Yes, Denver because of Jokic and he's doing his thing and they've been relatively healthy most of the year. But the Grizzlies kind of went under the radar a little bit now the last 2 months. I don't know if it's because people are starting not to like them because of the bravado and Dylan Brooks doing his thing and all that. But I'm starting to buy in on the idea of the Grizz at the very least making it to the Western Conference Finals, probably the Finals. I think I'm there. I'm not saying I'm making a formal pick right now. If right now the playoffs are today, who I'm picking to win the Western Conference, I'm saying Grizzlies. But I'm definitely trending that way 2 weeks out for the playoffs. Obviously, when we do a preview in the weeks to come, we'll obviously get into that. But I think I'm buying into the idea of them repping the Western Conference in the playoffs. All right, and finally, last take of the day, and thank you so much for listening to this N1 and EJ podcast. Come every week. I want to break down how many teams I can realistically see making the finals this year. As you know, this has been a very parity-driven league the last couple of years, and it seems to be going that way even more and more. In the past, especially the last couple of decades, it's been, you always had an idea there are maybe 2 or 3 teams that were guaranteed to get to the finals, conference finals at the very least. Maybe a surprise here and there, but it's always been a top-heavy league for a very long time. And now we're getting to the point now where we have a lot of teams that you can say can be viable for being a finals team. So I want to sit here with 2 weeks out to the playoffs start and list off the number of teams I believe can make the postseason. And I'm right here looking at my list here. I counted. Let me make sure I get this right. Make sure I'm sold on this one more time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I can see 9 teams right now in the playoffs. In the playoffs, making the finals. 6 of those in the Western Conference. The other 3 in the East. The East one's probably really easy. The Bucks, who to me right now are probably the clear-cut favorite to win the East and probably win a championship based on everything we're seeing. They're on a roll, won 7 last 10 games. Giannis is doing Giannis things. Drew Holiday's balling. By the way, Drew Holiday is starting to make a case for, maybe if he stays healthy the next couple of years, a Hall of Fame case maybe, because he's starting to, ever since going to Milwaukee a couple of years ago, he has turned his career around and stayed healthy. Obviously, the Celtics are, in the finals last year. You got Tatum and Brown. A lot of pressure there, too, because Jaylen Brown could actually opt out of his contract at the end of the season and become a free agent. And then the Sixers, of course, with Embiid and Harden. And there's pressure there with Harden, too. Possibility of him leaving Philadelphia if he wants to opt out. And there's been a little bit of rumors about him possibly wanting to go back to Houston. Don't know why. Whatever. So 3 teams in the East. And I'm going to say, what about the Cavs? Cavs are a good team. They can win a series, possibly 2, but their ceiling is capped up conference finals. Young team. I just don't think they could beat Boston and Milwaukee, certainly, and that's who we probably end up playing in the second round is Milwaukee. I don't see them beating Milwaukee, obviously. In the West, however, I have 6 teams I can see playing in the finals. Not saying winning, but playing in the finals. The Nuggets, of course, in the West, number 1 for me. The Grizz, as I'm saying now, I think the Grizz are aligned to that. I think the Suns, if KD stays healthy and they do their thing, Chris Paul stays healthy too as well, too, they can win the West. The Clippers, now, obviously, Paul George will be healthy. The Clippers can win the West. And to me, they probably have the deepest roster in all basketball. And Kawhi Leonard, let's say he's healthy too, especially, and he holds up. See that playing out. The Warriors, the defending NBA champions, Golden State Warriors. Big caveat, though. I can see him winning, going to the Western Conference, winning the West this year. Here's the problem. Andrew Wiggins. Is he coming back for the playoffs? Reports are he's out for the year. Personal issues. Will he be back for the postseason, though? Because Wiggins can tilt that. You saw everything play last year, especially in the finals. He was, after Steph Curry, their best player. So, if Wiggins is back, they're a finals contender. If Wiggins is not there, I think they could be bounced even as early as the first round. The Lakers. Yeah, I'm gonna go there. LeBron stays healthy. He's okay to hold up. He holds up. Him and AD. They're hard to beat when healthy, and they've won a title already as a unit. Okay, and give Rob Pelinka, general manager, credit for the trading out Westbrook, getting pieces back. The pieces fit. They're starting to play much better basketball than I was expecting too. Yes, the Lakers could win the finals, could win the West, if things play out that way. So again, I have 9 teams. I have obviously the three on top in the East: Bucks, Celtics, Sixers. Sorry, Heat fans, my fellow Heat fans, myself. The Heat are not. No, they're not there anymore. Or Cavs. Then you have the West. I have the Nuggets. I have the Clippers. I have the Grizzlies, the Suns, the Warriors, and the Lakers that can all play and vie for a final spot in the Western Conference. So, but again, we got 2 weeks ago. Still more narratives to be written, and I cannot wait. So that would do it here for this week's edition of the End One with EJ podcast. Again, if you want to check out all my work, follow my link tree at linktree.com//Ernest Christian. You check out all my work, my podcast. I have my own podcast called the Ernest Speaking Podcast, where we just did a WrestleMania preview. We did a baseball preview last week with my boy Mikey B. I also do like solo episodes here on life and other things. It's a variety show. I'll talk a lot of sports there still, but definitely more variety based. I also have another podcast called Ernest Speaking Unfiltered, which is like try to do daily. It's hard to really do daily, but I do at least a few episodes a week where I find one trending topic, whether it's sports or whatever. It could be politics, it could be culture, it could be anything, wrestling, whatever. And I do one topic, and I just do a quick 5, maybe 10 minute kind of like essay or take on that thing or rant on that thing on that one topic. So you check it out. Both those shows has its own feed. Check it out there. Of course, I'm also on the Huddle podcast every Tuesday. We just did our first off-season episode. We just dropped that actually yesterday. We reviewed the NFL off-season. I'm back, of course. And if you like wrestling, I have my own wrestling podcast called Take Me Wrestling, what I do with Of course, this is Mike and Joe, and of course, Big Jim, the head of the Huddle Up Incorporated. We do that normally every Friday. We drop the episodes every Friday. We did it a day early this week because of, like I said, Mike and Joe going to WrestleMania. So, but that'll do for me. Thanks for tuning in to the show, and we'll see you next week. I'm on Twitter at EJChristian7. Chat with me, of course. I'm all ears. I love to talk to everybody here. Get in the comments. Check my YouTube page, youtube.com/ErnestChristian. We get all my work, this show, all my shows, clips of the shows, all that. So guys later. God bless y'all, and see ya.